Hey there, everyone. So I wanted to go ahead and answer some of the questions that I have received via email about a particular article. And I wanted to do that in a way that I could really explain the way that I took the article. So this is, my perception of the article and the thoughts that arose from this article. So let me go ahead and share my screen so I can show that to you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jessica A. Walker. I am the president of the Jaw Research Institute, which provides education about the African-American consumer and patient. So let me go ahead and bounce right into this because I don't have too much time here. However, I want to definitely share my insight on this article. So the article that I'm reviewing is called Dimensions of Culture, Cross-Cultural Communications for Healthcare Professionals. It's on their site. This is at www.dimensionsofculture.com. And it looks like this was done 2014. So this article is written by Marcia, is it Carteret? I can't say the last name, sorry. Not that too good at that. However, I wanted to go through this article with you. So let's go ahead and read the first part of it. It's basically, its title is Effective Mental Health Referrals. So the importance of a family-centered approach. So it talks about how many cultures stigmatize mental illness and the culture's value system is rooted in collectivism, and I totally agree. So it talks a bit about how the process of personal development does not occur in the same way in collective cultures, such as Africa, Asia, South America, Arabian countries. In collective societies, the group or family identity remains the focus and the individual remains embodied in the culture identity. And I agree with that. For immigrants, for people who are not of the US, then yes, definitely. I believe that there's definitely a correlation between the two. Built relationships. So oftentimes running short on time, providers will find that if they spent a little more time upfront establishing rapport with families, it will save time in the long run and increase compliance as well. And pediatric cross-cultural encounters, a great start to any conversation is families are so important to children, and I liked learning about families in my care. Would you tell me a little bit about yours? Let's take a step back from that. First and foremost, I think that there has to be definitely a rapport built. However, I don't think that this is a jumping start off to a conversation because number one, you need to build that up. And this may seem intrusive. This may seem like you're trying to get, why are you asking about my family? What are you digging for? So it may bring up a sense of pushback, of a defense mechanism. I think that would definitely spark a defense in the African-American, and I'm only speaking for the African-American perspective in America, because we are so guarded and we want to protect our families because family is so important to us. Asking a question like that may seem intrusive. It may seem like you're digging for something. It may seem like investigative. So I would not start off with that question. Instead, I would build up some rapport in a sense of even sharing a way that you yourself, build a relationship with your family. And that doesn't have to be too personal, but it can be simply, I have a nephew your son's age, or I have a son that's your son's age, and we just went and we played baseball or something, something that kind of basically creates that humanness in you. Because as soon as an African-American, and I'm going to say mother or father, I'm going to speak for both genders here. As soon as either of us enter into a physician's office, we're already with our guard up. We already have our guard up. We're already expecting that you're going to try to dig, to try to get something out of us and we're just looking to solve whatever our problem is at the moment that we're there for. So this is something that has to happen over time. It is not an immediate it isn't something that will happen immediately. So don't expect for, oh, they are coming to your office, you'll say this, and then all of a sudden they'll just open up to you, and all the gates will be down. It's individualized. Remember, we always want to individualize the care. So yeah, in some individuals it may happen that way. However, for a large, for a large group of us, for a large demographic of us, because I hate to use the word majority or minority, I hate to use those words. So for a big amount of us, that will not work. So I wanted to touch on that, so that may seem intrusive. So also we want to take a look at this a bit further. So she goes on to say that you should say, where does your family come from originally? I think that's totally fine. That question's okay. I don't think that's very intrusive. If you know that, someone is, you can ask that. And then some of these questions can really truthfully be answered via the chart. That's why we look at patient history, or that's why you look at it, I should say, because I'm not a physician. That's why you would look at patient history, is because you can find out kind of where the family came from, and know some back history. You should already know some of this back history before you even step into the room anyway. So asking some of these questions may seem redundant to them when they've already filled out 5 to 10 different forms that told you where they came from, what they're doing, so on and so forth. And they know this. We have to stop acting as though we're getting, I hate to say we all as people have to stop alluding to the fact that medical care and medical providers are so different than the consumers themselves and the patients themselves. We are all one, and we all interchange, right? You can have a patient that is in fact a doctor. You can have a doctor who is in fact the patient. We're all interchangeable, and we all care about each other's health. So we have to look at this as an individual and as a human spectrum, and understand and not try to dumb down someone's intellect, and not try to think like, oh, they don't know, because they do. All right, so let's keep that in mind. If your patient has already filled out about a gazillion different medical record papers telling you exactly what their medical history is, who their family is, where their family has struggled from, so on and so forth, then we have to understand and value that they know you already have access to this information. So asking the question of, how long have you been here? Is your family united here? So on and so forth. It's something that may already be answered, that can already be answered in their medical records, and they know it. So for you to ask that question would make it seem like you're thinking that they're not smart, or you're alluding to the fact that, oh, they're, or you're alluding to the fact that you didn't even care enough to read their medical record as well. So keep that in mind. Behave the way, okay. So, and then we talk, so moving further on this particular article here. Depression and stress are symptoms not recognized. So we're going to examples of cross-cultural barriers to mental health. Depression and stress are symptoms not recognized in many traditional cultures. Exactly. Many people from non-Western cultures may think that frequent crying, insomnia, chronic headaches, etc., are just a part of life. These may not be considered things that warrant treatment. Yes, absolutely. And it's because genetically, and then, and I also have epigenetic inheritance shows us that we are not only inheriting the DNA of our ancestors, of our relatives, so on and so forth, but we're also inheriting their genetic tags and their experiences. So yes, if your mother's mother has we've all reacted this way, and we've all seen where we've cried over and over again, where we've, where we've had times and periods of just heartbreak, right? She talks a bit about the word heartbreak as well, moving forward into, let me grab that again, moving forward into the cross-cultural barriers to mental health. Let's see, it's down towards the bottom here. Listen for common idioms. Yes, she talks a bit about the heartbroken, the terminology about heartbroken being heartbroken. So yes, definitely. If you've seen your mother go through it, if you've seen your mother's mother go through it, yes, then this is not this is the norm for you. This isn't something that's outside of the norm for you. You don't even understand that there's something going on because you've constantly lived in this experience. So of course. And I tell within my story how I grew up around a lot of people that were depressed. So I didn't even know I was depressed. I was like, no, this is what happens. This is how we live life. And we have to stop normalizing that. And I think that a lot of awareness is being built now to stop normalizing it. But it's a process, and it's something that we're catching this is very early on in the stages here. We're just now coming to terms with maternal mental health. So of course, it's something that's a work in progress, excuse me. So definitely, yes, yes, and yes. Now, how do you now create a conversation with the patient so that you can move the patient forward and get them the help that they need? I would say that, so she talked a bit about, and I put some notes here, so I want to talk about that here. And many, so let's go back to her article. In many collective cultures, any emotional problems are related to the family, not the individual. There is something unsettled in the family interpersonal relationships. Patients may actually steer away from personal preoccupations that detract from the focus on the good of the family. Self-disclosure may suggest betrayal of one's own family, weakness or failure, and associated shame. Yes, yes, and yes. So self-disclosure may feel like snitching, and not, go ahead, go to the Urban Dictionary and look that one up. But it may feel like snitching on your family, like you're telling something that should not be told outside of the family. And it does look like a weakness for the individual, like you need help. And that's something that, and let's just be real with it, in historical lines, in our historical context in the US history, have we ever heard of any of the slaves receiving treatment? Have we ever heard of any of the offspring of these slaves, now that we know about epigenetics receiving treatment? Hey, your great-great-great-grandmother went through a horrendous experience, so we definitely need to make sure that you are okay. And really, truthfully, maybe even saying that, it's uncomfortable, but it's real. It really, truthfully is real. And that's what, if I am speaking for only African Americans, the African American culture appreciates the fact of just being upfront and honest and saying what needs to be said. I'm concerned about you. I know that there is a long history, and just our climate, our climate right now in America is very, very, it's heavy. It's funny because a couple of days ago, I went to an event for 2020 Mom, a maternal health event, where we released a white paper. We were reviewing the white paper, which is due for release coming up soon. And one of the physicians there said, you know what, this climate is really heavy. It's really, really heavy. It's really hard right now. And I said, I agree. And the fact that this physician was just being real about it and just saying, you know what, right now, it just sucks, but we have to do something about it. We have to actively move forward. It was like, it was a way to take a breath and go, someone sees it. And that's what truly over all of this, what this video is about, is seeing the individual and seeing them. I talked about having a face of what postpartum depression is supposed to look like, right? We have this face of what we think it's supposed to look like. However, it is individualized, and we have to remove that face. We have to see the individual for who they are and say that I see you, I recognize you, and you are important. That is what, and I hate to use the whole Black Lives Matter thing because, I feel like there's a different agenda there. I digress. But that's exactly what that means. That's what Moms Matter means. That's what Black Moms Matter means. It means that you see me as an individual, and you see the experiences, you see the environment that I'm going through, you see what's happening in America to me. And you're not going to accept it anymore. And you're willing to help me move to the next level, or help my people in a whole, really truthfully, get what we need. And you're not going to stand for it. you know, as an individual, as, you know, if you're watching this and you are Caucasian, you are of another race and ethnicity other than African American, you're going, I'm not going to stand for it. I'm going to stand with you in it. And we are, and together, Unify, we are going to do something about this. And that's what it's all about. So with all of that being said, I have one more point that I want to hit on, and then I want to read to you another article, which I think you should definitely check out in addition to this. The things that are said here were good. There are some tweaking here, but I mean, that's with anything. And it's only my perspective. So you may have a different perspective of it, but coming from my perspective and in my community, these are the beliefs that I hold and perspective that I hold about this particular article. She said something that really struck a chord with me, and it really made me very, very uncomfortable. And I will definitely be emailing her about this. And it was back in 2012 that this was released, but I'm glad, you know, it's better to catch it anytime than to never catch it at all. So she says here, let me just find it. All right. Identify the belief system operating within the family. Yes, it's very important. Human beings define intimacy, relationship, motivations, assertiveness, and willpower within a particular cultural context. Yes, we do. To assume that these are conceived of universally by all human beings is extremely ethnocentric. Yes, it is. Similarly, ideas about health, both physical and mental, are also culturally derived. I can't say the word. Yes, exactly. So she hits that right on the nail. Be aware of alternative belief models. In fact, anticipate that they may exist. Yes, definitely. And they do exist. And we all know this. This isn't something that's out of the norm. We all know this. However, it's something that makes us uncomfortable. But we have to make ourselves uncomfortable to get to where we need to be, because it's uncomfortable living in this skin for me every single day. However, I continue to try and I continue to move forward. Learn about some common cultural bound illnesses. Yes, in a second. So as you can see, I'm doing this while mothering. So excuse me, sorry about that. But this is a part of my life. This is who I am. So I don't choose to separate any of that. They need to see that their mother is out there doing great work, and this is what it is. So anyway, I digress. Back to the article. Ask families what resources are available to them in their community. And so here's where I have the big problem. Healer, herbalist, a clan leader, or pastor. Now, clan leader or pastor, putting those two together definitely strikes a, now that is being culturally insensitive. You said all this good stuff. You said all this good stuff, and then you hit me in the stomach with clan leader or pastor. Woo! So that hurt. What I would say instead of that would be, you know, to say clan leader or pastor, which I mean, I get to a certain extent why that word is used. However, that word should never be used in a comparison of pastor. So that's a definite and sure way for your ability to create a relationship and your trustworthiness to go from here to woo, way down there. Now, everything that she just said, which was great and awesome and really was moving a move forward, you know, well, I'm going to say some of the things she said, because not everything, but some of the things that she said. Now I have totally devalued everything she just said, because now she's just punched me in the gut with clan leader. We have to understand that there are specific words that trigger a specific thought, belief, you know, a chord. Let's just keep it real. A chord in us that we cannot accept and we will not accept. For you, it may be, you know, it may be a word that's, you know, I'm not going to even say it because I don't even like saying things that, you know, are unhealthy. So it may be a different word. But to say clan leader definitely is a word that we do not want to use in any context when you're speaking to anyone in a different ethnic culture. Okay, that word should not be in anybody of context, of text, excuse me, here. So definitely going to email her about that one because I have a problem. And that is that. So I will continue and take that up with her, and as well as the dimensionsofculture.com, because that's something that they definitely should be aware of, and they shouldn't even be really allowing it into. So let's move forward, shall we? So now I have an article here written by the Nation, which is written by Danny McLean. Danny McLean, if you click on this here, it'll take you to, she's obviously an African-American woman, and it'll let you contact her via Twitter, so on and so forth. But let's go back to her article here. So let's go down. I'd like to read to you some of her work and some of her experience. So the name of this article is called "What It's Like to Be Black and Pregnant When You Know How Dangerous That Can Be." I knew I had to probably find a way to have a healthy birth despite what the statistics were telling me. All right, so I want to read to you a bit of her journey. I won't read all of this, but I'm going to read a bit of her journey, excuse me. So let's just see. Let's start about here. Yeah, let's start about here. So, let's start here actually. So she basically talks about how African Americans go through the healthcare system and some of the things that they think about. And she's talking from a perspective of a woman who is highly accomplished, who has a master's degree, so on and so forth. So let me read a bit of this for you. For the past 3 years, my job has been to report on Black-led organizing and the police violence that fuels it. And until recently, I've been able to read and process related news with the detachment that my journalism training has instilled in me. But now, what I see online and on TV simply makes me afraid. I am 7 months pregnant, and these days, traumatic events, hit me in a way that I can't neatly tuck away. I'm learning that in moments like these, it's crucial that I step away from the screen and stop crying, that I figure out how to return my breathing to normal. My health, my fetus health depend on it. Black women, after all, are 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy complications than white counterparts, and Black babies are twice as likely as white babies to die before their first birthday. I worry that I'll have a baby that's too small to thrive, or that I'll be treated so negligently by the hospital staff during delivery that I will end up seriously injured or dead. And this is all of her worry. While she's pregnant, she's worrying about this the whole time. So can we say that she's having a large amount of stress? I'd say so. You might think that I don't need to worry. I eat a healthy diet. I don't have high blood pressure or diabetes. I am not poor. I have private insurance and a master's degree. I started prenatal appointments at 10 weeks and haven't missed one since. But I am under no illusion that my class privilege will not save me. Research suggests that it's the stress caused by racial discrimination experienced over a lifetime that leads to Black American women's troubling birth outcomes, not the individual choices those women make or how much money or education they have. So let's stop there for a moment. So it's not that women are poor. It's not that they are making poor choices. It's the fact that every single day they have to encounter racism. So let's continue on. And this is what's leading to babies being born at low birth weights, the maternal death rate while women are giving birth, as well as the mortality rate of Black infants before their first birthday. So let's continue on. I sat jaw-jacked as I read the work of public health researcher Arlene, and I cannot say her last name, who has found that the average Black woman might be less healthy at 25 than she was at 15, and that African-American women at 35 have the rates of disability of white women who are 55. There's something about the American experience that tears away at the Black body. I was 38 years old, and so daily sites and structural racism had plenty of time to take its toll on me. Thus, my decision made during the long summer of my 3rd trimester to take a break from the news, which serves as a constant reminder of 2 disturbing realities. 1, that in carrying a Black child, I was carrying a potential steering or Castell or Rika Boyd or Tamar Rice. And 2, that my health and that of my child to be were largely in the hands of people who, like me, have been watching events unfold in Baton Rouge or Dallas or Ferguson or Chicago, but may have a completely different understanding than me of how race works in this country. And now, so she talks about an experience where she walks into an OBGYN office. So when I walked into my OBGYN office in Dayton, Ohio, or into offices of various specialists, I saw over the course of my pregnancy, I suspected that the all-white teams of receptionists, nurses, and doctors, oh, okay, there's a Black receptionist at the office where I got my ultrasound. First, I see a Black woman, not an Ivy League graduate or someone whose job includes researching reproductive health or any of the other characteristics that some may think would shield me from substandard care. An Institute of Medicine report found that people of color are less likely to receive needed services, even when their insurance and income are the same as white people's. So I tried to leverage every bit of privilege I could to starve off any assumptions that my healthcare providers might have had. I wasn't married and rarely wore my engagement ring, but I made sure to put it on before every prenatal appointment. Now I want you to think about the stress that's probably associated with the fact that you have to make sure that you have on your wedding ring, your engagement ring. You have to make sure that you're dressed properly. You have to make sure that when you go to a doctor's office, just be seen for a prenatal appointment, not to include the stress of already being pregnant and being a pregnant woman, because that is stressful in itself, but you have to make sure that you are perceived to be of a certain standard in order to receive a certain standard of care. All the stress that goes into that. So she makes sure she has her engagement ring on so that she's not perceived to be in a different class of people, so she can receive the type of care that she needs in order to be healthy, which that type of care should be given to anyone anyway. So let's go back to the article. But I made sure to put it on after every appointment, put on her engagement ring. When I showed up to an appointment with cornrows or an afro, I wondered if I'd be treated differently from the times I'd come with my hair flat ironed. These concerns may seem far-fetched, but during my pregnancy, they were very real to me. A 2016 study by the University of Virginia found that about half of the white medical students and residents surveyed held at least one false belief about biological differences between Black and white people, that Black people's nerve endings are less sensitive than white people's, for instance. Those implicit biases affected the students' abilities to make appropriate decisions about treating Black patients. Dr. Norman Oliver, the study's co-author, told me that while the so-called social determinants of health, access to safe housing, jobs, education, health insurance, are largely responsible for health inequities, biases in the clinical treatment also play a role. A 1999 study of cardiovascular health found that Black women are at a particular disadvantage. Speaking to Oliver made me think of the minutes before my daughter's birth late this summer, when the nurse in charge of administering the anesthetic introduced himself to me just prior to my C-section. He was a white man, friendly, willing to answer all of my questions. When he finished explaining the process we were about to begin, I looked him in the eyes and made him promise me that I wouldn't feel anything, as if personal obligations rather than his training would get me the appropriate care. I didn't need to read Oliver's research to fear that I might feel my obstetrician's slice into my abdomen due to racist ideas and pain and Blackness. Now I want you guys to think about this, how deep this really goes. It's so deep. I don't want to make this video too long, but this is just, it's heartbreaking. It really truthfully is. The same distrust caused me to be skeptical that I actually needed the C-section I was told was necessary at 14 weeks. That's when a white doctor reviewed my ultrasound and told me that not only did I have fibroids, but also that the largest one, the size of a grapefruit, was blocking the birth canal, making a vaginal birth impossible. The doctor had also been warm and responsive, but the encounter, especially her warning that the fibroids put me at increased risk for hemorrhage or a hysterectomy during surgery, set me on edge. I hadn't known prior to the ultrasound that I had fibroids, but I had many friends and family members who did. Black women are up to 4 times more likely than white women to have them. I knew that the C-section rate in the United States, 32%, is more than double what's recommended by the World Health Organization. The C-section rate here slightly higher for Black women than white women, even for Black women who are low risk. Was I being steered by a provider with unconscious racial bias towards becoming another statistic? I held on to the possibility that she and my white obstetrician, who confirmed her findings were wrong, that they couldn't imagine the same options for me that they might for a white patient. It wasn't until I'd gotten a second opinion from a Black female OBGYN that I accepted the C-section was the right choice. I felt more confident that she'd been able to see me as a human being just like her. Now, I read all of this for a reason. I read all of this to you to say that everything that I told you in the first part of this video is absolutely true. We have to see the individual as a human being, as a person. And if we aren't seen as a human being, as a person, we have to stop making these assumptions that Black people are coming into the office and they're just totally oblivious of what's happening in the medical field. Like they don't know, they aren't educated, they have no idea. I can tell you right now, even the minimalist, you know, and I'm going to say the minimalist individual consumer patient that comes into your office knows that they filled out 50 million papers on that clipboard that told you everything about themselves. I'm going to tell you that. So we have to stop thinking that we're talking to people who aren't aware. And we have to start looking at them as human beings, and also making, and I'm saying we as, like, I'm a physician, I'm not a physician, but we have to, as a people, understand that we have to build these relationships. And they are very, very important and crucial to the work that we all do, right? Because we care about the individual and we care about the African-American human experience. We care about the African-American person. And I'm only speaking for African Americans because I am one, but we care about all people's experiences, and not to relate that only to one specific, but we care about everyone. However, African Americans in this country have gone through a lot. So, and I say that because I am at a loss of words at this moment. So, want to go ahead and cut this video short. Thank you so much for watching. If you have watched this to the end, please connect with me. You can go to bit.ly/talk2jaw, which is Jessica Advocates Wellness, and I am here to answer any and all of your questions. You can go ahead and select the option for maternal mental health in the African American community. We are all human and that we connect differently. And we have to understand that. So we have to know that as individuals and as human beings, we all deserve the same amount of care. So my name is Jessica A. Walker. I go by JAW, which is Jessica Advocates Wellness. Thank you so much for watching this video. Wishing you wellness in life and in business. I will see you all soon. Bye.